I'm on stolen Kaurna land, and this is Kaurna land that's never been ceded. I'm sure some of the people attending here are on other nations' lands, traditional owners' lands. I pay my respects to all elders present and emerging. Thanks so much for inviting me to address this important conference. Leadership for me is about your ears and not your mouth. It's much more important what you listen to than actually what you end up saying. It's how you take what you hear and translate that through to action that really sets the standard for facilitating change and improvement in our community. As Jess said, my journey has come through various pathways. I grew up in Morphett Vale, and I still live in the same postcode that I grew up in. I have a deep connection to my community, and I feel very strongly about leading my community through listening and engaging with them and understanding deeply what their needs are. I had a really amazing experience with the public schools I went to. I went to Flaxmill Primary School, right through from reception to year 7. And back in those days, we didn't have anything like the early learning or kindergarten programs that we have today that set that really important foundation for engagement in the learning cycle. I was fortunate to have a stay-at-home mum that did an amazing job teaching us how to read and how to do basic maths before we got to school. So the transition to school was really simple for us. I went on to go to high school at Mitcham Girls and had a great experience there too. It was a wonderful school where we were encouraged as women to take on whatever it was we wanted to be or do, and to accept the challenges given to us in any form and do our very, very best. I have since been trained as a nurse through the hospital system and studied at Adelaide University and Flinders University. I think the transition through school and how leadership and the styles of leadership impact our young people in our community is super important in terms of the way that we access a diverse range of kids in our community. I'm not going to sit here and lecture to you or explain to you how to manage your own leadership styles in your own communities because you understand them. I think probably for me, sharing I've had through some of the challenges. I really feel truly now that myself, my family and some of our friends have been able to translate that to leadership. So Jess mentioned the Sammy D Foundation. Many of you here would have already had my husband or maybe my husband and or I in the early days come into the school and talk with young people at different ages of the journey that we've faced as a community, losing our son to violence, now going back 13 years. The terrible shock, obviously, and the trauma that brought to our community. My husband and I, we were more concerned at that point in what the effect was on all of our son's friends who were facing that critical transition through year 12, going into tertiary or education processes. So we set about bringing Sam's friends around the table and having lots of conversations with them about their feelings and what they wanted to do to make sure that the same thing didn't happen to another community. That's in a nutshell. This, of course, is a very long conversation to have. But over a period of weeks and months, many of Sam's friends who you wouldn't have particularly identified them as natural leaders, certainly none of them that I know of at the time saw themselves as leaders, but they helped us to frame a powerful narrative, a dialogue that we then managed to carry on and continue with the help of academics, teachers, scholars in the community that used evidence-based practice, research in action to facilitate change and ensure that we developed a culture of leadership within schools that was a legacy to the conversation that they'd had at different levels. Going on further, we did reflection with many of the teachers that we'd worked with, and we were encouraged then to try and make this a repeated conversation in different forms at different times with those same underlying themes. I think that's what leadership is about for me. It was about the listening and the transition of that, or the translation of the listening to the learning and then to the talking. So leadership really became about that, what you hear from other people, what you take on board from that consultation can really frame the powerful narrative that you deliver that might just, in our case, save a life. I since then have had many conversations with Aboriginal leaders, elders in our community, and feel very humbled by the conversation around the acknowledgement that Aboriginal people have been using powerful narrative for centuries, tens of thousands of years, in order to share the stories, the yarning that they do, that make sure future generations learn from the history of the past. And I think teachers are well placed to actually continue. You can probably hear the bells going for a meeting that I've got to attend, so I'll start to wind up. But I think it's that powerful narrative that then translates into the conversations that lead young people, children, through critical transition phases to the journey to the future. And I hope that as a Member of Parliament, I can be a little of what they see. Of course, I came from nursing, which was the most respected career or profession in our community, to being a politician, which kind of sits down there with some sort of snake oil salesman or car dealership. But I hope that through the conversations I have, at least I can make a difference and help to create leaders in our community. So thank you for the opportunity to just share a little bit of what it is that I do, what I do as a Member of Parliament.